Okay, I'm not driving, not at all. But I wanted to speak out about an experience that we just had where I have housekeeping where I work, and one of the residents, a male, did something physically inappropriate with one of the female housekeepers. And she came to me, and I gotta tell you, my knee-jerk reaction was just go break this guy in half. Granted, I work in senior living, so I can't exactly do that. And so it was really a very difficult, conflictive situation. And I wanted to, how do you handle this, you know? And so I wanted to really just lay out a couple of different perspectives on this whole thing. One is I'm in more of a management position, so the victim, or the female who was the victim, after reporting it to me, makes a liability for me in the sense that I must take action. That I have to respond and handle this appropriately. Now, as an employee, as a professional, there's a way to handle that. As a guy who wants to protect somebody who's his friend and someone who he cares about, I wanted to respond in kind, and I wanted to respond with aggression and tactics that would ultimately cost me my job. On the other hand, if I did nothing at all, it could cost me my job. So how best to proceed when you have these situations? And I gotta say, it was a big learning lesson for me. First is to try and calm your emotions, because this is a difficult thing to have happen, and you've got to have a clear head in any of these circumstances. Of course, there's going to be a confrontation, right? So we had to have a conversation with the gentleman, and as a male, I wanted to be the one to initiate this conversation. I had other female counterpart staff members, but whereas this guy was an older gentleman and comes from a generation that would frankly listen to men as well, I felt like it was more appropriate to address this way. So rather than just taking him by the collar and basically treating him as a bouncer would at a bar and throwing him out in the street, which was what I wanted to do, you know, I thought, okay, let me at least go talk to him about this. So I approached the gentleman and I said, hey, I need you to tell me about Michelle. Tell me about what happened. He said, I'm really embarrassed. I'm really sorry. I misread a situation. I thought something would be a little more consensual. I crossed the line. I'm so sorry, and this is not something you have to worry about again. And I said, okay, can you talk to her and tell her what you just told me? He said, yes. I said, okay. So then I go and I got the victim, and I brought her over to talk to him. And he repeated that. He says, look, I'm profoundly sorry. You don't have to worry about me ever doing something like this again. I apologize profusely. I'm very, very embarrassed of this situation. I'm really sorry, and you don't have to worry about it again. I felt like it was a heartfelt enough apology. Let's talk about that for just a second. I feel like if you heard this situation and you heard what he had done to her, he groped her, I think everybody would just want to kill this guy. And I understand that sentiment completely. Believe me, I absolutely do. And it's probably nothing less than he deserves. So then the question becomes, should he be forgiven? And my thoughts are this, is that we're not all perfect. So there's two sides of this. One is that we're not all perfect. Secondly, how do I say this? People can change, right? We can make mistakes and we can change. Now, yes, he's a senior. Yes, he should know better. Yes, you should never do that. Okay, great. But I still feel that there's an opportunity for him to remedy this. Could he be respectful? Could he have all this happen? All right, there's that perspective. Secondly, there's no going back once you've done something like this. Once you've groped someone, you've crossed the line. Clearly it wasn't consensual. Clearly this is an issue. The challenge that I have here from the victim's perspective is that the victim has had this happen to her before at a different job, which nothing was done. And this angers me, infuriates me, and frustrates me to the most out of the entire situation. And I told her before we went and talked to the gentleman, and she's telling me about this, I said, look, you have to fight this fight. Don't sit back, don't sit and take it, and don't let people not respond to you. Don't let your employer or your coworkers ignore you. You must see this through. There has to be accountability. So that's the two sides of it. One is, should someone be forgiven? I think if he shows enough sorrow and remorse, yes. Now, he'd been warned. After he apologized, he was warned, look, you are on thin ice, and we will be monitoring this situation very closely, and you guys will not be left alone together. So this will be the situation moving from here on out. And this is where I quoted Warren Buffett, where it's like, look, you made a mistake, I'll be understanding, but if you make a mistake again, I will be ruthless. And I really love that quote, because it's a clear understanding of how we're proceeding forward from here. So those are the two things that I really wanted to talk about. If you, as a female, encounter this kind of situation, do not suffer in silence. Do not take this laying down, for lack of a better phrase. Don't take it. Don't put up with this crap. If you have something like this, and just understand too, I am not a feminist. I'm not out here to say that, women's rights and women's power and all this. That's not my agenda at all. It is just to say, look, if you're a victim out there and you've had this kind of stuff happen to you, do not let them win. You have an obligation to yourself to stand up for yourself and defend yourself. Not necessarily physically, but at least defend who you are as a person and understand that you have rights. No one has the right to silence you. No one has the right to put your complaints and your concerns and your fears aside like it's no big deal. And it cannot be dealt with by managers who simply say, oh, well, we will separate you. We will watch. And no. There has to be clear communication between the offending party and the victim. Now, had he responded any other way, had he responded with any kind of bitterness, anger, or said anything inappropriate, that's it. It would be done. It's over. So now we're going to option B, which is the ruthless tactics. This is, hey, look, now we're going to really rain down the consequences on you. Granted, there are sleazeballs that can work this system and sort of, quote-unquote, get away with it. But I feel like it's a fair enough of an opportunity to make both sides feel better. I spoke with the victim afterwards alone, and I said, how you feeling? She says, I feel better. She goes, better than the last time that this happened to me at another job where nothing was done about it. She said that the night before, because this happened yesterday, so last night she couldn't sleep at all. She was having just all sorts of emotions of anger and frustration and self-doubt. Would anybody even support her in this? So I understand having to go through all that, but it's still important to have some type of resolution and confrontation. Even though, yeah, I guess I just totally lost what I was saying, but yeah, that's kind of my rant. Anyway, if this happens to you, don't take it laying down. If this happens to you and you're in a management position, do not dismiss these feelings. I was just listening to something on an ebook about success and that type of thing, and they said the most successful item in any situation, especially conflict one, ones involving conflict, is communication, and you cannot possibly over communicate. So I feel like in this mode of communication where we sat down with this gentleman and we provided a situation where he could speak with her directly, it gave an opportunity for her to have her voice, and also gave an opportunity for him to say, I'm sorry. And maybe in some instances, that would be better than just dragging him out and hanging him high in the streets and killing him. Although it might make her feel a little bit better in the short run, I think in the long term, having the opportunity for him to say he's sorry and then prove he's sorry by never letting it happen again might provide a situation of forgiveness and better feelings for both parties involved. I feel like this is the best way to handle this solution, or to handle these types of situations. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of hate and a lot of feedback for it, but I wanted to still talk about it because it was a major lesson that I learned today. Thanks.